Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our NFL Week 10. You heard that, Week 10. We've somehow already hit double digits. NFL Week 10 predictions. Before we jump into those games, though, just a quick update on Cal and I's head-to-head pick'em game. He had a pretty damn good last week, and I had a decent little week myself. I put up 8 points, but Callan put up 11, bridging that gap a little more that he already had on me. Now the totals are me with 87 points and Callan with 91. So what once was only a 1-point lead now is back up to a 4-point lead. But even though we are way into the season already at week 10, there is still, 8 more weeks for me to make up now? 9 if you count this week. So
Yeah.
I still got a chance. It's close enough game, close ball game.
Still close
feeling
enough.
good. Yep. So now, speaking of those predictions, we're going to jump right into those. Oh, and just a quick little note, we are actually recording this on Monday night. In fact, I think that the Monday night football game is about to start. So our points this week, me with 8, him with 11, is not counting the Monday night football game, but we did both pick the Chargers, so nonetheless, it's going to be the same differential. It just is if we have 1 more point each or not. So just wanted to make a quick note of that for the totals. So now we will actually jump into our Week 10 predictions, starting with the Thursday night football game of the Carolina Panthers heading to Chicago to take on the Bears. And we start again, as we usually do for Thursday night football, by agreeing. We both have the Bears in this one. I can't trust the Panthers. Bryce Young looks bad. He came out and he had that one really good game against CJ Stroud. I don't know if it was just that first overall versus second overall pick competition or what got him fired up to go against that Texans defense and pick them apart the way he did. But then outside of that one game, they have just looked absolutely horrific in general, and especially Bryce Young. I mean, he's been put in a lot of bad situations, having to pass a lot and getting that easy pass rush on him because they're in a deficit. And he's really been getting helped out by Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen has been stat padding all year. But nonetheless, I mean, you just can't win like that. The stat padding doesn't matter when you can't get those points when you need them. Putting up however many passing yards and 14 points in garbage time doesn't really matter if you're down by 28 already. It's just, I'm rooting for Bryce Young. I do like him. I like CJ Stroud more from the beginning. Just thought I'd point that out. But I do hope the best for Bryce Young. But so far, I just cannot in good faith pick him.
Yeah, he seemed to just really feed off competition. And, that competition of the first or second overall pick, seemed to fire him up. But besides that, maybe there's just not a lot of energy around there, being a 1-7 team, it's hard to get fired up and go out there and play when really they have bad pass protection. So he's under fire a lot of the time. And he's not used to that because at Alabama, he had a damn near NFL style offensive line where most of the offensive linemen are NFL players now. And really their defense does not do them any favors. It's a young coaching staff with a very good head coach. I believe they do have the right head coach to get them in the right direction. I just think it's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah, the one big star on their offensive line right now is Ike Ekwonu, who they picked up with their first round pick last year. But he's a run blocking guy. That's the thing. He's not really going to help out in pass protection. Their offensive line is much more built for run blocking. I think what they get in the draft this year is they go out and try to get an elite level running back, whether through the draft or in the offseason. But I think that's really what this team is missing, and they haven't had it, of course, since they traded Christian McCaffrey last year.
They had one.
They had one, and then they're just like, you can go to the Niners and make them a super team instead. Next up, we have the Vikings game, with the Vikings returning to Minneapolis and the Saints joining them there. We have the Saints coming to Minneapolis to take on the Vikings. and we split here. I have the Vikings in this one. Callan has the Saints.
And this Saints-Vikings rivalry goes all the way back to late 2008, back to the Favre game. And it's been back and forth ever since. But really, I believe the Saints have dominated most of the games. It's just the Vikings seem to have won the important games.
In the playoffs, yeah.
And the playoff games against them, except for that 2008 game, of course, where the Saints got away with that one.
Got away with that one. Literally got away with that one.
But I believe that the Saints coming in here, it'll be Josh Dobbs' first career NFL Vikings start. So we'll see how he does with an actual week to prepare and actual starting time in practice this time. But I think that Derek Carr will be able to slice up that Vikings defense, who seemed to have a bit of a regression last week, and I could see continuing to have a regression with Derek Carr and Michael Thomas and Chris Olave and that high-powered Saints passing attack.
Yeah, Chris Olave was really quiet this season, but he kind of picked back up last week, had a couple of good catches, including one for a touchdown. Definitely a scary guy, but I don't know. I can't trust Derek Carr. He hasn't looked good this year. I mean, he went against that Bears defense last week and was only able to put up 24 points. And if I'm not mistaken, 2 of those 3 touchdowns actually came while Taysom Hill was at quarterback. At least one of them for sure. But that's a bad defense to go against and only be able to put up 1, maybe 2 touchdowns. They had so many opportunities. Their defense kept getting turnovers, and he just wasn't able to convert. So what I'm much more worried about is, as he touched on a little bit, is the Vikings defense, the Vikings offense, which kind of looked good last week, but the Saints defense just looked so good last week. Granted, of course, they're going against the Bears offense and Tyson Bagent, but now they're going against the Vikings offense without Justin Jefferson. And actually, Jefferson might return this week. I'm not positive on that.
He could be activated off IR.
I think we probably wait one more game just to be safe.
You have to open up the 21-day practice window first.
Oh,
then you activate him off IR. So he has to practice first and then can be activated.
That makes sense. So he probably won't play this week. So you don't have Justin Jefferson. You have Joshua Dobbs in his first start. Just lots of nerve-wracking there, but nonetheless, gotta stick with my Vikings. It's in Minneapolis. That'll help us out a little bit. The Saints are a very inconsistent team, so they did look decent last week, but they could come out and absolutely shit the bed this week. Definitely nervous, but I'm sticking with the Vikings in this one. Next up, we have the Packers game, which is the Green Bay Packers heading to Pittsburgh to go against an AFC opponent in the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we agree again on this one, but with Pittsburgh, we both have the Steelers here. The Steelers look pretty damn good against the Titans. I really thought that they were going to get kind of shredded by Will Levis with that defense. I thought that they might really struggle with letting him throw the ball deep. Their offense hasn't really been able to do much, but they kind of got Deontay Johnson re-involved in that offense, and Deontay Johnson really stepped up. So I'm going to roll with them for a little bit. They are another, like the Saints, very inconsistent team that could easily go out and crap the bed next week. But for now, until they prove me wrong, I'm going to kind of roll with them and take them against the Packers here.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I feel like the Steelers are just a better team this year. They have a little bit better quarterback, I believe. He's had a few more starts than Jordan Love, and he has a few more weapons than Jordan Love. He's got that veteran leadership with Deontay Johnson, who's really made quite the impact since coming back in just one game. He had the lone touchdown, passing touchdown or receiving touchdown, however you want to score it, in that Titans game last week. And unfortunately, I just think that the Steelers defense is going to be too much for the Packers offense to really get anything going. I mean, Max Crosby was able to completely wreck our game when we played the Raiders. So I can't imagine what TJ Watt is going to do. So I hate to say it, but I feel like that Steelers defense is going to dominate the Packers offense. And I think that the Steelers are just going to outscore us. And it's going to be a low scoring game. And I think they'll outscore us, by a field goal or a touchdown.
Yeah, you think Max Crosby is a bad man. TJ Watt is terrifying. Let me tell you though, I got George Pickens on my fantasy team right now and Tank Dell on my bench. George Pickens is about to get his ass benched if he doesn't get his crap together. So let's see what he's able to do
That
next
is one
week.
thing that the Packers have going is their passing defense has
True.
definitely been one of the tops in the NFL.
He might already be benched. We'll have to see how that goes. But now going from one AFC North team to two other AFC North teams, we got a divisional matchup here with our game of the week, which is the Cleveland Browns heading to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. And we not only agree here, but we agree on an upset. Cal and I both have the Browns, and we both have them marked as our upset in this one. The Browns defense is just so good. The Browns offense didn't do really what it should have done to the Cardinals defense last week, considering everything about the Cardinals defense. But that Browns defense just absolutely embarrassed them. They made the Cardinals look like a college team, to say the least. Shutout, 7 sacks, I want to say 2, if not 3 turnovers, one of each kind, a fumble, and at least 1, if not 2 interceptions.
Two picks.
2 picks. Just absolute domination at its finest. And don't get me wrong, the Ravens have been playing super well as of late too. But these divisional matchups, you never know how it's going to go. The Cleveland Browns are probably the underdog on the road. Give me the upset here. I like them.
Yep, the Browns are the underdog on the road here, that's for sure. But I do think that they will get the upset here because it's going to be a classic matchup of your defensive player of the year candidate and Myles Garrett versus NFL MVP candidate and Lamar Jackson. And it's just going to be who is able to outmaneuver the other one. And I think that Myles Garrett gets the best of Lamar Jackson this week in a dominant defensive performance from the Browns.
Yeah, I think a big player to watch here is going to be Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, because with a very mobile quarterback like Lamar Jackson, you got to think about that. To have a big, fast, athletic linebacker like Owusu-Koramoah, that can make a big difference.
Definitely.
So now jumping down the list a little bit to our 2 final games we're going to talk about, our 2 primetime games, but primetime is a strong word to describe them. You'll see what we mean with these matchups. But to start here, we got the New York Jets heading to Vegas to take on the Raiders. And we split here. Callan has the Raiders. I have the Jets in this one. I kind of like the Jets this year. I don't know. Zach Wilson has been very inconsistent. As I mentioned earlier, we haven't actually got to see him play this week. He's going to be playing tonight against a middle-of-the-pack Chargers defense, so we'll have to see how he goes. But he just has the weapons around him. He has an amazing running back group with Breece Hall, Michael Carter, and Dalvin Cook. That offensive line is not stellar by any means, but they're young and improving as the season goes on. He has a decent wide receiver core headed there by Garrett Wilson. He has the pieces around him. He just needs to put it together. And of course, the biggest piece he has isn't technically around him, but it's that defense that is just absolutely dominant for the New York Jets there. And I think they're going to be the key to this game. I'm sure we're going to see another Aiden O'Connell start for the Las Vegas Raiders, and I just don't think O'Connell's going to be able to do anything against that Jets defense. So even if the offense can only put up 7 to 10 points, I think that's all they're going to need for a win here against the Raiders.
Yeah, I expect a very low scoring primetime game here this next Sunday night. But I like the Raiders in this one because Antonio Pierce has just brought a new energy to that team. And it seems to be like it's a player-ran team, and that's a player's type of coach in Antonio Pierce, who's a former player himself for the New York Giants. And he's also a Super Bowl winner with the New York Giants, so he knows how to win. And even though Josh McDaniels did seem to have that winning perennialness, he didn't seem to translate it very well in Las Vegas. He was more of the owner's type of coach, not very connected with the players, it seemed, and not very much, having very strict rules from what I've heard. There was a players only meeting where they had to air out their grievances about Josh McDaniels prior to him being fired. So that's never good for Josh McDaniels. So obviously they wanted him out of there and didn't want to play for him, and now they have a coach they want to play for, and I think the Raiders are going to show their full potential.
Yeah, I think that Josh McDaniels is going to go somewhere else and be a really good coordinator. He's just, like you said, you made a really good point with him being an
Mhm.
owner's coach, not a player's coach. And that's just not how it goes anymore. You can't really have that anymore. So finally here we have our Monday night football game with the garbage matchup of all garbage matchups. We have the Denver Broncos heading to Buffalo to take on the Bills. And we, of course, agree here. We both have the Bills. The Broncos did come off a shocking win against the Chiefs, right, 2 weeks ago before their bye week.
Mhm.
Now they're coming off of a bye week, getting a little bit of rest and relaxation. The Bills are coming off a loss. It kind of does have all the makings of an upset here. But let's be honest, the Broncos are the Broncos and the Bills are the Bills at the end of the day. It's in Buffalo. They're going to have that amazing home crowd backing
Mhm.
them. I just don't see a world where the Bills lose this one.
No, I definitely see the Bills winning this one. It would be quite the shocking upset and probably the upset of the week if the Broncos were able to pull this one out. But I don't think they're going to be able to pull two upsets out in a row. Two upsets in a row out. I think it's just going to be too much for that Broncos defense to handle. The Bills will be able to pass the ball on the league's worst passing defense, and they'll be able to run the ball just enough to get the passing game to open up downfield and get a big play to Gabriel Davis or Stephon Diggs. And I think the Bills run away with this one.
Yeah, you don't see a lesser team in the league just in back-to-back games beat two of the top teams in their conference. It's not a thing.
No, it just doesn't really happen.
So that was our NFL Week 10 predictions. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next week, don't forget
To eat the W.